Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Recently I got a comment on one of my videos asking if I could do a tutorial on how I interlock my hair, and while I have shown how I interlocked my hair in other videos, I do not have a dedicated video just to how I interlock my hair. And I figured going forward it'd be easier just to point someone to say, hey, here's a video that is strictly how I interlock my hair using the current method that I'm using. I am still using my crochet hook. I have said time and time again that I will try other tools, and I have not. The only other one that I've tried is a safety pin, and I did not like it. So I'm still using my crochet hook until I find something else that I want to invest in, but I never do. So here's old faithful. So I just washed my hair. It's still a little damp. I've got it wrapped up in a t-shirt right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just take this down. Here's my hair right now. As you guys know from my last video, I've been going sometimes long times in between retightening and sometimes short times. And as of recently, I don't know. I just do it when I feel it's necessary. So before we get started, let's hit some basic things. I interlock in a 4-point rotation. Whether you use a clock or a compass, that does not matter as long as you're hitting 4 points. The direction I rotate is counterclockwise. I think that's backwards. I think there's like an industry standard to rotate your locks clockwise. And I think that's more so important for people who palm roll, just to make sure they're going in the same direction. Another thing to point out when I'm interlocking my hair is that I don't try to keep the rotations the same throughout my head. For example, if I start off and I'm getting one full rotation, I don't try to get one full rotation around the whole head. The reason is many of my locks are not the same size. So whereas a smaller lock may take more points or more whole rotations, a lock that's a bit fatter is going to take a little less. And so what happens is if you try to get the same number of rotations on your locks, your head won't be evenly retightened. So you may have some that are a little loose, you may have some that are really tight, and to me that doesn't make any sense. I'd rather my locks be uniform in how tight they are to my head. So if one takes 4 points, one takes 6 points, one takes 3 points, that's what I'm gonna do. Well, how do you know where you left off last time? And the answer to that is that I never do. I never know where I left off last time because it's never the same for any given lock. So what I try to do, and sometimes I can feel it, a lot of the times I can't, but I can try to grab a lock and just feel it, and sometimes I can tell like which cross direction it went. So I can tell if it went up or down, or I can tell if it went left or right. If I can tell, I just try to go, if I can tell my lock went up and down like this, I just try to go this way. If I can't tell, I just start at 3 o'clock. So what happens if I'm interlocking a lock, I somehow get distracted or my mind leaves me and I can't remember which direction I went through last? I try to feel it. Generally, I feel like you can tell which was the last pass direction if you feel hard enough, but sometimes you just can't. And so when that happens, to me, I just go in between, if that makes sense. So if this, if I think that maybe I went, 9 to 3, and I don't know if my next one is 9 to 3 or 6 to 12, then I'll go right in between it. And so that also says that it's not super important that I hit every single point. I think what's more important is that you're just going around. Even if you go 12 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, as long as you're going around, I think it's fine. And the reason why I think that is because there are lots of people who use different numbers of points in their rotations. There are people who have 3-point rotations and there are people who use 2-point rotations. So does it really matter? I don't know. We'll never know. I feel like it doesn't matter, so I'm just going to keep doing my locks the way that I do them. So we talked about number of rotations I take, the direction I go, what happens if you forget a spot. Again, just if you don't know, hit the middle because you don't want to go through the same hole twice. As you know or should know, that's going to create holes in your locks, so no one wants that. So don't go through the same hole twice. Oh, I remember one more. Don't over tighten. So you will have a headache at the end. There have been a few times where I have over tightened my hair unnecessarily and it just gives me a headache for like a day. Try to get pretty close to my roots, but I try to make sure I don't over tighten because there's just no need to. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm going to put my hair into a ponytail and just start from up here, which is where I normally start, and show you how it's done. So here we go. I have my lock here and I have my tool. So what I'm going to do is awkwardly grab this lock from behind my head, take my latch hook, which you cannot see, and stick it in that way. So once it's stuck all the way in, you can just hold the latch down, put the lock in it, and in the beginning you will for sure want to close the latch and then pull it through. And there you go. That's just the one point. So now I'm going to go up top, take the hook, push it through the root, pull all the way up so that it's tight. Again, thread a lock through the hook. But once you start getting pretty comfortable, you actually won't even need to push that lock down, because as soon as you pull it, once it hits the lock, it closes the latch for you. So there's two. We're gonna go in this way. Again, push it through. Make sure to pull that hook all the way up. Thread a lock through. Again, you can close the latch or you can just pull it and let it close on its own. Pull it through. There you go. And again, you can kind of see it, but you can see where there's a clear, I can't say it's clear, but to me it's kind of clear, a clear hole right here. This is clearly where the lock just went through. So this is where you definitely don't want to go back through the same hole, because you will then create a hole. So if you're ever doing something like this, you're talking, you're chatting, and you forget where you left off, you can try to feel your lock. Because when I feel it, again, I can clearly tell that it was going this way. So I know to either start up here or start down here. Again, to me, it's not that big of a deal if I accidentally go back this way, as long as I don't go through here. But you do want to try to be continuously going in the same direction. So I can feel that it went across, and I know that I was over here, so I know my next direction is from the top. So I'm going to push through, pull it out. Again, let me point this out. You can even tell when the hook goes through where that previous hole was. Thread the lock through the latch, or I'm sorry, through the hook. Pull it through. I have room for about one more rotation, or I'm sorry, one more point. So I'm going to stick the lock through the back, through the front, latch it, hook it, pull it through. So yeah, and that's tight enough. So on that lock, I was able to go 7. So I will do another one for you guys. So here's a lock. So my battery's dying. I'm gonna try to talk a little bit quicker through this one. So the potential issue you have is if you start getting comfortable, you go through, especially those locks that are in the back that you can't see so well, and you push your latch through, but then you push it through too far, so it gets caught underneath another lock. So if you can tell here, I've got some hair from a neighbor lock. So if I were to complete this rotation, latch it, pull it through, now these hairs are stuck in this lock. So now they're tied to 2 locks. So you want to try as hard as you can to only go through the base of 1 lock. So typically I just try to go like this, pull it up before I'm even all the way through, and push it out. That way I'm not pushing it at the root and potentially going too far and grabbing hairs from other locks. So try to get it through a little bit, pull up, and then go out to make sure you're not grabbing the base of any other lock. Then just keep going from there. All right, hey YouTube, not sure where I left off, but as I mentioned, my battery is dying, and it died. A couple things to point out now that I'm a little bit further. Like I mentioned, the number of rotations some of my locks take is very different because, for example, where I have some of my bigger locks, which, goodness, why can't I find them? Where there's an obvious size difference. This one I think went around 2 full times, and this one just took 1 rotation. So the size of the lock matters. So that's important. Another important thing to note, if you notice my lock, some of them, they're thinner up here and then they get thick towards the bottom. Around this part of my head, a lot of my locks get big towards the tail end. I want to say maybe it's just because when I installed them, maybe these weren't as tight as this is, but I will never really know. I just know they're a little bigger. All that to say, you want to be careful about your locks that get thick at the end, because just because this part of your lock can fit through the base doesn't mean this part can. So if I ever get to a point where I'm trying to pull a lock through and it gets stuck at the end, that's a kind of a clear sign to me that I was trying to force it anyway, because my locks, all of them in general, are very small. So if I can't get this through the base of it, that means I was just trying to force it. So if you can't get the base, if you can't get the tail of your lock through your base, you know you've reached the end. Don't try to force it. If it hurts when you have to stick the needle through or you have to put a lot of force into it, you know you're at the end. So keep that in mind. So I'm gonna pull these up, fake them into this ponytail. All right, so you can see the difference between my tighten side and my non-tighten side. So again, this isn't too terribly long. Like, I could probably go a little longer without tightening it, but just the way timing is, I'm tightening it now.